between SpaceOddity and c1ue00ster. Starting up right now, we see a little bit of silicon right in the middle. SpaceOddity is going to go ahead and browse north for us. I'm going to yell at myself later, cry myself to sleep because I forgot to disable my overlay again. c1ue00ster has scouted basically the same area. This is looking like a very strange map that I am very glad I am not playing on right now, if I'm honest. Whoa, SpaceOddity though, gonna go ahead and found scientific. That looks fairly reasonable given the state of this map and the fact that a vast majority of it seems to be covered in spires of death, so she is just gonna go ahead and grab up a nice little medium aluminum mine with steel mills on top of iron as a scientific player. That's kind of very similar to the kind of start you want. Not exactly perfect, but we're not getting perfect on this map, it looks like. More silicon and water being discovered by c1ue00ster. There is a little carbon on the map, but nothing really usable. Not a lot of usable iron left over either. We'll have to see what these tiles are that haven't been revealed yet, and there also might be something up in this corner, in this darkness. Not much though. Really relying on these being iron, or some of this being iron or carbon, in order to stay in this match. Unfortunately, it looks like c1ue00ster hasn't actually spotted these tiles just yet that clearly have resources on them. And he's instead been looking around everywhere else. There is carbon down here. There's a high carbon tile. Pretty much whatever else is right here. There is another foundable location on this map. Another, look at this, double high carbon. c1ue00ster has to spot this and go ahead and get into it. I don't know what he's up to right now elsewhere on the map, but it very much concerns me that he has not founded with this particular carbon tile. There we are. Now I'm even more concerned for him. Oh guys. Oh guys. These tiles, when you land on these tiles, I believe it is equivalent to 20 seconds of production is the bonus you get. 20 seconds is all. Pirates are going to go over to SpaceOddity for 1,000. That's also terrifying for c1ue00ster. But so he decided that he needed 20 seconds of production on 2 of his high carbon tiles. Immediately, rather than just having the carbon tiles available to him. Now he's not going to have any adjacency bonuses, and pretty much at most, he's going to have 3.5 carbon coming in a second. It is usable, but it is not ideal when you could have taken 6 carbon a second instead, long-term this game. Alright, c1ue00ster is also going to go ahead and grab up a low aluminum mine. It's kind of understandable, but not really ideal. There was other aluminum up here. If you were going to take a low, why not take this one, for example? SpaceOddity should have her eye on this tile for if the game goes super late, it could be quite strong. And c1ue00ster has also grabbed up a nice little high water, whereas SpaceOddity has selected instead to have just a medium water and a low water with some adjacency attached to move forward as our scientific player this game. c1ue00ster has managed to get to HQ level 2. That's not going to be too hard for him to reach, given that he started the game with an additional, what, 120? No, not 120. Sorry, an additional 80 carbon. Oh, wow. He's not even going to get this carbon quarry up. He's instead opting to put an electrolysis reactor on top of it. Now I'm very concerned. 2 carbon a second is not much to work with as a scavenger player. For example, your reactors already cost 60 carbon apiece. He has to wait. If he wanted to get 2 more reactors down to make this a triangle, it costs him an entire minute, basically, of production to do so. Yeah. An entire minute of production just off of this elemental quarry. That is a long time. Once again, c1ue00ster opting to go for additional quarries separated elsewhere rather than taking any adjacency bonuses off of his production. He's only making about $3 a second off this electrolysis reactor. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 more electrolysis reactor to it. That's most certainly a good idea, given that water is kind of flowing in from both of these players at the moment. But this silicon quarry is a bit questionable. It is really not making any money whatsoever, as I believe SpaceOddity already had a high silicon quarry and tanked that price fairly early in the game. Looks like c1ue00ster is more following a general kind of build order idea than actually reacting to the circumstances of this game. Once again, let's not forget, SpaceOddity has $1,000 pirates in her back pocket for just in case any of these resources go too crazy and c1ue00ster finds some way to find an edge. SpaceOddity should be able to counter it with those extremely cheap pirates. She's also managed to hit HQ level 3 already and expanded into 2 glass furnaces. We might see a 3rd glass furnace before too long, and that will allow a very easy transition toward HQ level 4, and of course any farms or reactors in the future off of the profits from the glass.
8,000, 9,
Alright, once again, Klooster valuing geotherms higher than any other auction. It's very strange, because almost any other player in the game will do the exact opposite. Recognize geotherms as kind of the least valuable auction that pops up most of the time, except for possibly some other like random tiles. For example, if this silicon tile got auctioned, it would be worth less than a geotherm, right? But other than that, it's a very interesting mindset coming out from Klooster, who has also opted not to go into 3 electrolysis reactors and instead throw down a single glass furnace, which is making him an entire $1 a second. SpaceOddity's glass furnace is doing much, much better, not having to pay the silicon cost on those, having solid adjacency bonuses. Once she has all of those up, I believe they'll be making her a good $130 a second for the time being, allowing for an easy reach to HQ level 4. Klooster, on the other hand, looks like he's going to be struggling a bit, still on just that 2 carbon a second, needs to push to an entire 240 carbon in order to get up to HQ level 3, which he needs quite desperately in order to keep up with SpaceOddity. And he is choosing to throw down a geotherm instead, burning through 180 carbon in order to pull that off. Definitely a risky play on his part, trying to play out this game on so little carbon as a scavenger player. SpaceOddity does have a similarly small amount of iron, or sorry, it's steel in a lot of ways, as she has not opted to add to her steel production, but 1.5 steel is even maybe a bit more usable than just 2 carbon, especially as SpaceOddity was able to push through to other sources of income very quickly this game. But my big concern is you've committed more to glass furnaces and are actually making twice as much glass as you are steel. And so it maybe slows down that glass play by not allowing you to simply upgrade on through and get to those farms, since you don't have the steel coming in to support it. On top of that, we've got just the 1 solar panel, which really isn't doing a whole lot, just paying off $12 of debt a second right now. Not doing a whole lot for our scientific player at all. We've got an electrolysis reactor just sitting around burning money, and then we finally have this aluminum mine. I think the basic idea here was to connect up this aluminum mine, but I don't know if it was important enough to throw down such a hodgepodge of buildings altogether. Pirates did finally come down as water started kind of moving up in price just a bit. SpaceOddity is just going to be taken away. I believe that will hit, looks like just the water. I don't think it quite intercepts the silicon as well. Might have been a better idea to pirate this aluminum up at $29 right now, but you do what you do. Claim auction coming out. If the past has been any indication, this will go over to SpaceOddity for the nice price of $5,000, but we'll see if Klooster is willing to push a little bit higher this time, and see if he actually values it as much as a geotherm tile. Alright, 8,000. This is getting a bit more reasonable. $9,000 on over to SpaceOddity. Once again, I don't understand Klooster's decisions regarding his auction play at all. He's giving SpaceOddity the very nice auctions for very, very small amounts of money, while for himself, he is taking the perhaps least valuable auctions and spending significantly more on them than he would be willing to for any other. And that's definitely a bit of a concern for me. SpaceOddity has committed to 3 solar panels off of that cheap price of silicon. Also, plenty of silicon nearby she has access to. Could potentially move into food fairly easily. She has a ridiculous amount of glass stored up with these tiles. And that's exactly what she's going to do. So SpaceOddity in a very nice place. Klooster has caught up to HQ level 3. He is getting down an additional glass furnace and an additional electrolysis reactor. I can't words, I'm sorry. However, even with the adjacency bonuses, it just means that he has another glass furnace sitting there burning money. So it might have actually been a bit of a negative to go ahead and put that down. He's just burning money slightly more efficiently now. The reactors are making some degree of cash, but once again, food is where it's at. Food is pretty much always where it's at eventually in these games, unless we have a lot of robotic players on the field. SpaceOddity got to HQ level 4, got to that food production. Klooster is just purely in catch-up mode right now. He needs to find some kind of odd way to pull himself back into this game with something like hacker array play, or using this glass he's been churning out, transitioning into food himself, and abusing his potential black market advantage as a scavenger player in order to keep SpaceOddity knocked down. Let's see. SpaceOddity is down to about 40,000 in debt. She's paying off fairly successfully, about 600 a second, as it doesn't look like she has much debt coming in at all from things like fuel, oxygen, food, or water, since she has a decent stockpile of all of them. That's going to get rid of her debt fairly quickly and allow her to turn these solar panels into straight money-making machines, and she's actually committing even harder to her current most valuable resources based off of that HQ upgrade. She's going to move into even more power. So this will be a ridiculous amount of money coming in a second, but it will also tank power's price very, very quickly, and she'll need to transition perhaps into additional reactors or into something like, not even iron production. She'll just need to move into something else one of these days. c1ue00ster has decided that instead of increasing his own amount of money gained, he just wants to start buying into SpaceOddity's stock. Hey, it worked last time where he just bought her stock. Maybe it'll work this time. But once again, this is something I have to question. c1ue00ster's stock price is very, very low. He has no real production secured anywhere. His glass furnaces are burning money. His electrolysis is making almost nothing. His water is probably his single best source of income. And on top of that, he just let another claim auction go by for $6,000, putting SpaceOddity on what? We've got 10 claims, 14 claims, 16 claims for SpaceOddity, I think, as opposed to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for c1ue00ster. That's how far behind c1ue00ster is. Even if SpaceOddity wasn't into the better production, which I believe she is, c1ue00ster is still just way behind on production. He poked the bear, and SpaceOddity is just fighting on back, having taken up 3 of c1ue00ster's stock already, sitting on a good $43,000 at this point. Goes ahead and moves to HQ level 5 to secure the game for sure for herself, as long as nothing terrible happens, like the Chem Labs of round 2. She should be just fine to go ahead and have this game locked up. An additional steel mill is going to come on down. It's going to be a bit expensive, but steel is quite valuable right now. The only issue is iron is also extremely valuable, and it could have just moved into 2 iron mines instead of throwing down 3 steel mills at this point. I don't honestly know if that upgrade was worth it, because everything could have simply gone into stock. Now, we do have this concern where SpaceOddity has made so much food, she has turned water into an extremely valuable commodity, and her food is no longer making quite as much money as one would hope for. Some of them, in fact, losing money that don't have strong adjacency bonuses attached to them. She's going to throw down ice condensers to kind of help compensate, but so far, those aren't actually making any money. They're just kind of supporting food just a little bit and keeping it from losing as much money. And this helps bring c1ue00ster right on back into the game. He is throwing down farms of his own, perhaps not paying attention to what's actually going on with the particular prices this game, considering water is more valuable than food, and so maybe turning water into food is not the best of ideas at this particular moment. But at least his water production is coming on strong with a good $300 a second based on just 2 tiles. It has to be the best situation he's been in all game. However, SpaceOddity, having gotten down her own ice condensers, which are making a decent amount of money, with the ability to turn the farms back on should they become profitable, and with the solar panels actually making okay amounts, despite power's price of $29 right now, she's potentially in a pretty good spot. Even notices and is paying enough attention to turn off the steel mill that's consuming iron and simply use it as an additional adjacency bonus each for her other 2 steel mills. Now, c1ue00ster is fighting back still. He did manage to get to a little bit of black market. He has moved into some electronics factories in order to burn money instead of glass furnaces to burn money. So that was an interesting decision on his part. And he is going to be trying to EMP SpaceOddity's real sources of production, real sources of income, in order to keep her from finishing out this game. Cold Fusion comes up. Nobody's interested in any way, shape, or form in Cold Fusion. That's basically just a dead auction. At least nobody took it in a game where water is twice the price of power. Chem Lab is going to be coming down for c1ue00ster. Chems are a potential source of money. However, with only this 1 carbon quarry, I'm very concerned about all of his carbon consumption coming out, because it just makes it even harder for him to actually put down buildings. We have seen that that has come true. This idea of he does not have enough carbon. Carbon is $100 a piece. He just can't put down any buildings. He can't make money, even if he wanted to, because he just can't afford the building to do it. SpaceOddity needs only about twice her current amount of cash in order to... Okay, she should have it wrapped up in just a moment here. Very, very close to finishing up this game. The red button is actually available. I don't know why it's not showing 100% for c1ue00ster at this particular moment, but SpaceOddity should have it momentarily as soon as she notices, hey, that red button is up there in the corner. Let's go ahead and get it done. OPB. Yes, Space Oddity was very nice for Clue turning off his money burners. You are correct. Well, a little bit better than first game, not quite matching up to the second game for Cluester, it looks like. He did manage to make about $40,000, but here is the big deal that happened this game. He had to buy up $24,000 of carbon. Carbon was $100 a piece. That should play into the scavenger's favor, carbon being so expensive. But he was the one that caused that carbon price to be so high by simply not securing the strong carbon production available to him. He destroyed the tiles, got an immediate boost off of that strong carbon on those tiles. However, long term, it certainly came back to hurt him quite badly that game, and he just didn't really have a shot from the beginning because he chose not to take the permanent production those tiles would have granted him. Resources look fairly standard this game. Fair power spike, good food spike. Oddity hopped into both of those. Cluester did not. He was completely unable to, even if he had wanted to, because carbon was too expensive and he had no money. He did manage to sell some degree of electronics, some amount of glass, some silicon. But nonetheless, these were all burning money while they were active. The glass furnaces, silicon was too high, oxygen was too high for those to be worthwhile. The electronics, carbon was too high, silicon was too high for those to be worthwhile in particular. There were not enough adjacency bonuses affecting efficiency in this game in order to actually make money off of the buildings. And on top of that, his only real production came from his reactors, which he took a very long time to commit hard into, and from his water, which basically was generated by Space Oddity more than by himself. And so, not the best game coming out of Cluester, but Space Oddity doing quite well, identifying the strong markets, going ahead and moving into them, maybe a bit of an overcommitment at time to some of them. However, there wasn't really much else for her to be doing besides putting down something like a hacker array, maybe an engineering lab just in case, things of that nature, instead of a couple of those farms. And at that point, you're more or less just nitpicking when you say, man, she just made too much money off of those too quickly. It's like, well, I mean, she still made money. Still won the game at the end of the day. So that is going to be Space Oddity heading on over to round 2. She is going to be up against Cubit32 in her next match. So that is going to be a bit more difficult than fighting off somebody like Cluester, if I may say so. Cubit32, a very scary player indeed. Going to be a lot of work to do to climb that mountain and beat him, but still very well played in this particular round by Space Oddity. All right, guys, I think that